Sun's out, buns out. Nothing says summer like a burger grilled outside and nestled in a bun. Or my version of this New England classic, my lobster roll in a shrimp soup. Delicious. That's right. Replacing shrimp for lobster means you can save money and enjoy this classic anywhere. Next up,
maybe it's because I'm small, or maybe it's just because I don't like to eat a lot of meat at one fell swoop. I love a slider.
this one's made of pork, loaded with crunchy veggies, and slathered with a cilantro mayo.
That's darn tasty.
Maybe you're looking for a leaner burger.
Turkey burgers are a healthy alternative, but they tend to have the texture of cardboard. How do you get around that? Vegetables are my secret. Today I'm making turkey spinach burgers.
Does that look like a lean, depressing burger? I don't think so.
That's today on Sara's Weeknight Meals.
Probably didn't know there's two different kinds of lobster rolls. Right here we have the lobster roll from Maine, the one you're probably familiar with, mayonnaise, celery or cucumber and lobster, of course. Over here we have the Connecticut version. What makes this one different? This one is served warm and usually with just, melted butter. My family likes to put hot brown butter on top. Delicious. Today, I'm going to make the Maine version of a lobster roll, however, a much cheaper version with shrimp. Let's get started with the crunchy part. Traditional lobster roll, I'm going to keep calling it that, but I mean my shrimp roll, has celery in it. I'm going to use instead some cucumber. I just prefer cucumber, and so does my daughter. As a matter of fact, she wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I've chopped up, this is about 4 ounces, a scant cup of that seedless cucumber, although there are seeds in there, but they're edible. I'm gonna salt them. You don't have to, not absolutely necessary, but it pulls out some of the liquid so that this doesn't water down your lobster salad later on, and also flavors the cucumbers, which is wonderful. So I've just got them in a strainer. I'm gonna put a little salt on, toss them up, and then park them for about 10 minutes, and you will be surprised how much liquid comes out. So now we're going to talk about shrimp. I'm going to line up the shrimp like roquettes on a cutting board and do one action at a time. So first, I peel them, and I'm going to save the peels in this container here, a glass container with this lid, and you can suck out all the air. The idea is to save the shrimp shells for later on to make a shrimp stock. Fantastic. Now that we've got the shells off, I'm going to lay them all flat, keep them lined up like the roquettes, and run the knife down the back side of the C curve, one after another. Because what's in that outside of the C curve is the intestine of the shrimp. And perhaps the shrimp had dinner last night, and perhaps there's a little shrimp poop in there. We want to get rid of the shrimp poop. Okay, now let me just explain one thing. So here's the C of the shrimp, right? You're taking the vein that's on the outside, the intestine, that little strip. There's one that goes on the inside. Don't worry about that. That's the nervous system or something. It's the outside one you want to take. I tell you this because my daughter one time was making dinner for her boyfriend, and she had to do like 2 pounds of shrimp, and she took both sides out. Oh my God, 2 hours later she started cooking dinner. Okay, now I'm going to go over to the sink and wash out that vein. Okay, some cold water. Here it is. You see? We're just rinsing it out. If you tried to take it out with a paring knife, you get it all over your fingers get sticky. This is so much easier. So I've got a big pot of water here. There's about 3 quarts in there, and I'm going to add some salt. So I'm going to add about a tablespoon. Okay, that looks like it's boiling. So I'm going to add the shrimp, and we're going to watch it to make sure it doesn't come back to a full boil. Just like any other protein, you don't really want to boil it because whenever you boil protein, it just gets tough. You can see that it's already turning color. It takes almost no time at all. So I'm going to take one out right now and show you what it looks like inside. I'm going to cut it in half because the idea is that we want it to not be translucent in the center. So I'm just going to turn that off, let it sit for 10 seconds. We're going to stop the cooking by putting it in ice water. The shrimp is now going to stay in here for about 10 minutes, cooling off, and I'm going to start working on the sauce. Now for the sauce, I'm going to zest my lemon to get about a teaspoon of zest. Then I'm going to cut a wedge out of the lemon to add about a teaspoon of juice to our sauce. Good point to remember, zest the lemon first and then juice it. I'm going to pick some of these chives here and then mince them into about 2 tablespoons. Then I'm going to add a half cup of store-bought mayonnaise and stir it really well. So first the cucumbers are going in. Yep, they gave off quite a bit of water. I think these shrimp are cool enough now. I'm going to lift them out and put them on some paper towels and pat them dry. And then, because they're rather large, I'm going to cut them either in half or in thirds. And boom, we're done. Now you saw me make that from start to finish. Okay, let me just stir it up. Oh, this looks so good. Wow. Okay, bun time. We have 2 traditional buns here. This is the old hot dog, the one you get at the ballpark, and this is the New England version of a hot dog bun. This is what we want. Why? Because it's exposed on the sides. So when we go to saute it in butter, ooh, it absorbs all that butter. The other difference is where the split is that you put the food. But don't worry, if you can't get the New England style, you can buy the regular and just stand them up like this and cut down either side to expose the edges. I'm going to pop some butter in here. When the foam is just starting to subside, you know it's hot enough and you can get those buns in. All right, now while that is browning, I'm just going to tidy up a little bit. Okay, I think these guys are ready, nicely browned on both sides. It's time to eat our shrimp rolls. All right. Now it's very important to make sure these are completely full because they hold, you know, abundance. And an extra spritz of the chives. We're giving each person their own little paper holder. Nothing says summer to me like a lobster roll, and this looks every bit as yummy as the one you'd be sitting on the coast of Maine at a dock eating. So there you have it, my lobster roll in a shrimp soup.
Every fan of a big burger is definitely a fan of a small burger, also known as a slider, especially me. Maybe it's because I'm small, or maybe it's just because I don't like to eat a lot of meat at one fell swoop. I love a slider. So we are going to be making some Asian pork sliders here, and they're very exciting, but one of the issues you have when you're working with pork, because it's very lean, is that you have to add something to provide moisture. So I'm going to do it with vegetables. And I'm starting here with Napa cabbage. Napa, or even you could use Savoy, is another great cabbage. And in this particular recipe, you won't even taste it, really. It's just going to make the hamburgers moist. And then we've got a little bit of red pepper. This is a quarter of a large pepper, about a quarter of a cup minced. And then we have our scallion. And this is for flavor as well as moisture. Anytime you're working with lean meat, add vegetables to the mix when you make the burger, and it will be delicious and moist. I'm gonna just mince up a garlic clove. Add a little bit of salt. So some of the salt that I was gonna add to the burger, I'll add to the garlic instead to keep it from sticking. Okay, and then we're gonna do some ginger. I'm just gonna grate it. You need about 1 inch of ginger, which means about 1 teaspoon of ginger, fresh ginger root. Boy, I love the aroma that comes off of this. Yeah, that looks good. And last but not least, some fresh basil. We're gonna start with about, I don't know, we're gonna end up with 2 tablespoons of basil. I find that when I'm chopping fresh herbs, they reduce in half. So I'm taking the bigger leaves because they're easier to chiffonade. Chiffonade just means shred. You line them up like a deck of cards. This is what you do with big herbs, you know, big leafed herbs. And then you roll it up tightly like a cigar and then just shred it. That looks good. Now, our flavorings. So just a little bit of salt. I added some salt to the garlic. We want to add 1/2 teaspoon total, so since I already added some to the garlic, I'm going to just skip there. Then we want 2 teaspoons of soy sauce, and you're wondering why am I adding both soy sauce and salt? They just each provide a different salinity, but also in the case of soy sauce, it provides sort of a depth of flavor as well. 1/8 teaspoon of toasted sesame oil. A little goes a very, very long way. It's intense. So here's all our flavorings, and this is what's gonna make the burger so moist. So let me go get the star of the show, which is the ground pork, and we will just toss it in there and mix it up. If you don't eat or like pork, you can use any meat that makes you happy. I have a bowl of water here I'm going to use to shape my little burgers. It's just easier when your hands aren't all sticky. And we're only going to shape 8 because we're eating several appetizers for dinner, so you don't need a ton of meat. That's pretty well mixed. You don't want to over mix it. I'm going to divide it roughly into quarters, and then each quarter I'm going to make 2 little burgers out of, because we want 8 burgers. So the first one I'm going to do without water. I'll get them all fixed, and then I will put them in together so they all cook at the same time. But sometimes I'm terrible at proportions. So that's why when I'm measuring things out, I like to divide it up so I've got an idea, and you're going to have reasonably good success. Dip it again in the water. See, this is really very quick. Okay, they're ready to go. I'm going to pop them in the pan. And we're cooking these in flavorless vegetable oil for about 3 minutes aside. They're very colorful too, although by the time they're cooked, they're not going to be quite as colorful as they are right now. Now, that's not all. I always like to have a little something extra. So I'm going to make some cilantro mayonnaise. And we're going to just chop up some fresh cilantro. Great alternatives are basil and mint. I've got a 1/4 cup of mayonnaise in there. You could use the light mayonnaise if you wanted, or you could use yogurt. The Greek yogurt's really thick. And just a little bit of lime juice. Prepared mayonnaise, and there are some good brands out there, very good brands, but it tends to be very sweet. So I almost always add a little bit of acid. About a teaspoon, but I'll taste it. That's darn tasty. Okay, I think they're ready to turn. We're using this fish spatula. I like it because it's curved. This is a non-stick pan, so you've got to be careful not to scratch it. All right, we're gonna give them another 3 minutes on this side. Just make sure they're completely cooked at that point because this is raw pork. And then we're gonna assemble our little mini burgers. Okay, time to assemble. Look at how lovely they look. And they're nice and firm, which is what you want. So I'm gonna put a little bit of mayonnaise on each one of these. These are our mini buns. You could use mini pitas. If you can't find mini anything, you can take a little cutter like this into a normal hamburger roll and just cut them out and then save the crumbs, because you're not going to use the whole big bun, to make breadcrumbs, which you can then store in the freezer. We don't want to waste anything. So I'll just put this on the bottom. Okay, now I've made 8, which is for a family of 4, but certainly you can up the amounts for a whole big party and do many, many, many of them. You could shape them ahead of time and then just saute them at the last minute. The main point is you can't eat just one. So make sure you have at least 2 to 3 per person. There you have it, my mini Asian pork sliders.
What makes beef burgers so delicious? Fat, of course. Now, turkey burgers are a healthy alternative, but they tend to have the texture of cardboard. How do you get around that? Vegetables are my secret. Today, I'm making turkey spinach burgers.
So I gotta get my onions going here. I got my beautiful spinach. We need about 1/2 cup of sauteed onions. And if you only add one vegetable to give this moisture to turkey, let it be the onion. When you saute it, it just adds this wonderful depth of flavor and moisture. We're gonna get it in there with a little bit of olive oil. We are gonna use some fat, even though this is our lean turkey burger. Okay. So medium-low for about 10 minutes until it gets nice and golden. Okay, a little stir, a little pinch of salt and pepper. Okay. I'm gonna let that go for 10 minutes. Now see that nice color? That's what I'm looking for. In goes our spinach. We need 5 ounces. And I'm gonna really crank up the heat here because we wanna get this shrinking, cooking, wilting fast without sweating and giving up too much liquid. And it will do it. You don't need any liquid to cook spinach. I love spinach. All right. Again, I'm gonna add a little pinch of salt. You wanna flavor as you go. You don't wanna wait till the end. Give this one more second. You don't want to add hot vegetables to ground meat because it's going to heat up the inside before the burger cooks. And we don't want to set up a bad temperature situation for bacteria reasons. So what I'm going to do is quick chill this. Just throw it in the fridge until it comes, it gets pretty cool. And then we can add the rest of the turkey ingredients. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna work on my sauce while this cools off. So the sauce is a really simple sauce. It's part yogurt, part mayonnaise, and we're using yogurt because we want to keep it leaner. You could use low-fat mayonnaise. Don't use no-fat mayonnaise. No-fat mayonnaise has no flavor. Boring. And you could do it with all yogurt. I like the Greek yogurt. It's fantastic. So about 1/4 cup of each. And then we're gonna spike it up with some other ingredients. And then these things called pepperoncini.
You find them in Greek salads. And we're gonna chop 2 of these guys. You need about 2 tablespoons. You could add more. I'm gonna add some of their juice too. You can remove the seeds, which I will do very quickly. Now this sauce that I'm making is a wonderful sauce for all sorts of things. It's great on sandwiches. It'd be wonderful with sauteed shrimp. I just like it because I like the slight heat. These aren't terribly hot, but they give it a kick. We're gonna move on to the garlic and just 1 clove. Some lemon juice, a couple of teaspoons, 1 to 2. I'm just gonna eyeball it here. Let me get the rest of my ingredients. We have a few other things to add to the turkey. Now, when you go to buy ground turkey in the supermarket, you can get white meat, you can get dark meat. Obviously, white meat is the leanest of all of them. Or you could get a mix. And there's many different percentages of fat. Normally, I wouldn't recommend going with 100% white meat turkey ground because it's very dry. But with all these vegetables and things I'm adding, you could do that if you really want to go lean, lean, lean. And then we're going to also add to the turkey some oregano and some feta. Let me just chop the oregano, and then I know my spinach onion mixture will be ready. So oregano is a wonderful herb that's used in Greek cooking. Another herb that would go nicely in here would be some rosemary. And certainly thyme would be nice with turkey too. I'm gonna pick about 2 tablespoons of oregano. I'm using a grill pan. You could do this on an outside grill. It'd be great on an outside grill. Okay, and let me get my cooled mixture. Yes, that is wonderfully cool. Okay, all the turkey goes in. Since we have, I'm going to move this down here, since we have feta going in, I'm not going to add much salt, just a tiny bit, because as we all know, this is 3 ounces of feta. Feta is rather salty. It's a wonderful goat or sheep's milk cheese. I've never met a feta I didn't like. So there goes my oregano and my feta and a little bit of salt. And then I'm going to mix this with my hands because that's really the best tool to mix any burger with. But you don't want to mix them too much because they will then be very dense. And we don't want it to be dense. We want it to be, you know, light on the inside. Doesn't that look beautiful? I'm going to shape these 2 and get them in. That looks pretty good. And it's okay to have big chunks of feta in there. They sort of melt. And because we added all the vegetables, it seems that much more substantial. So we've got to make sure that we don't turn it till it's ready to be turned. People make a mistake when they're cooking burgers of putting it into the pan and then nudging it. I'm gonna have to hose off because I've got to use my olive oil spray. Okie. You can get these to put the oil in that don't have anything else in there. It's just straight olive oil. I'm going to oil the second side while it's cooking. All right, so now we're going to go with 6 minutes aside, and we want to cook it well done because it's turkey. So let me get these guys off. We've got whole wheat buns because we're being healthy. We lather it up on both sides with our delicious sauce, and then on goes our burger. You can grill these buns if you want. That would be nice. You know, it would be great to serve this also on pita, and that would be sort of in the whole theme. You need big pitas for that. I'm getting so excited. Does that look like a lean, depressing burger? I don't think so. I'm gonna go down and have it. So wow, I cannot wait to dig into this. I mean, yikes. Who doesn't love a burger? And occasionally, isn't it nice to have a burger that's slightly healthier, that's slightly lower in calories, like my turkey burger here? Thank you for joining me. I'm Sara Moulton. I'll see you next time for more of Sara's Weeknight Meals.